Have you ever wondered why a company you love suddenly hikes its prices or launches some brand new product that seems to come out of nowhere? Well, it's almost never random. It's usually a reaction to these invisible forces swirling around it. Today, we're going to decode those forces. We're talking strategic analysis, how businesses actually read the world around them to survive and hopefully to thrive.
It all starts with this one simple idea. No business is an island. It might look like its own little world, but in reality, it's constantly being pushed and pulled by the currents and winds of the bigger environment. And you have to understand those forces if you're going to navigate successfully.
You can almost picture it like this, right? The business is right there in the center. That first ring, the one closest to it, that's its neighborhood. You know, its customers, its suppliers, the competition right across the street. But those outer rings, man, those are the bigger, more powerful forces, like massive economic trends or major political shifts. A truly smart business knows it has to keep an eye on every single one of those layers.
So that brings us to our first section, built around this very idea. To really succeed, a business can't just look inward at its own operations. It has to become a master of looking outward, of observing and reacting to everything happening around it. So what exactly is this business environment we keep talking about? Well, it's pretty simple, really. It's everything outside the company that can mess with its plans, its decisions, and how it operates. It's the water the business swims in, and trust me, that water is full of currents, other fish, and some hidden dangers.
And this is exactly why it's so critical. The famous strategist Kenichi Ohmae put it perfectly. You can't even begin to think strategically until you've done the analysis. You have to look before you leap. It's that simple.
Okay, so let's zoom in. Let's start with that first closest layer around the business. We call this the immediate environment, or sometimes the microenvironment.
These are the players a business deals with day in and day out. Think about your local coffee shop. Its microenvironment is its loyal customers, the local dairy that supplies the milk, and yeah, that other big chain coffee shop that just opened up across the street. These relationships are direct, they're tangible, and they need constant attention.
But remember, that's just the inner circle. To be truly strategic, we have to zoom out. We have to scan the big picture. Those broader forces that shape not just one little coffee shop, but entire industries and sometimes the entire economy.
And this slide, it just lays out the difference perfectly. The microenvironment, that's up close and personal. It's direct. You can talk to your customers, you can negotiate with a supplier, you have some level of control. But the macro environment? Whoa. Those are the big, indirect, and almost completely uncontrollable waves. Things like national inflation or a huge technological breakthrough that changes everything.
You know, the macro environment is kind of like the weather. A single company can't change it, but it absolutely has to prepare for it. A sunny economic forecast can be a massive opportunity, right? But a huge political storm brewing on the horizon could be a serious, serious threat. The key isn't to change the weather, because you can't. The key is to know the forecast.
Which, of course, leads to the million-dollar question. If these giant forces are so far outside of your control, how in the world do you even begin to wrap your head around them? How do you turn all that chaos into a map that you can actually use?
Well, lucky for us, strategists have a tool for that. It's a framework called PESTLE, and you can think of it like a compass for navigating that huge, complicated macro environment.
PESTLE is basically a super smart checklist for making sense of the world. By breaking down that massive, chaotic landscape into these 6 key areas, a business can start to turn it into an organized map of potential opportunities and, just as importantly, potential risks.
All right, let's break it down, starting with the very first letter, P, which stands for political.
This is all about the influence of government and politics. I mean, think about it. How would a new environmental regulation totally change the game for a car company? What about a shift in trade policy for a business that imports all its goods? Political decisions can literally reshape an entire industry overnight.
Next up, we've got E for economic, and this is pretty much that financial weather report we were just talking about.
Is the economy booming or is it shrinking? If inflation is high, that means customers have less cash to spend on non-essentials. If interest rates are climbing, it gets way more expensive for a business to borrow money to grow. These are the hard economic realities that drive strategy.
Then there's S for sociocultural, and this one is all about people. It's about our values, our lifestyles, and the demographic trends that are shaping society.
This is where you look at the big cultural shifts. Are people becoming more health conscious? Absolutely. How is an aging population changing the types of products people need?
These shifts in what society values can create enormous new opportunities, or they can make old ways of doing business totally obsolete. And to complete our PESTLE framework, we've got 3 more crucial letters. First, T for technological. Just think about how the explosion of AI is creating brand new industries while disrupting old ones. Next is L for legal. These are the specific laws like data privacy rules or consumer protection standards that set the rules of the game. And finally, E is for environmental. This is everything from the very real risks of climate change to the growing demand from you, the consumer, for sustainable products. Each one of these is a massive force for change.
Now, this kind of analysis, it's not just for understanding your home market. It is the absolutely essential first step for any company that's thinking about taking on the world and going global.
You see, the drive to expand internationally often comes directly from doing this kind of analysis. A company might realize its home market is totally saturated, and all the big growth opportunities are actually overseas. Or maybe they find that they can get cheaper resources or tap into a bigger talent pool somewhere else. Going global is a huge strategic move, and it's fueled by understanding these external forces. And that really brings us full circle, back to the core idea. Whether you're deciding how to compete in your own neighborhood or whether to expand across the globe, it all starts with analysis. You look at the external environment to spot opportunities and threats, you look at your own internal strengths and weaknesses, and only then can you possibly choose a winning strategy. So I'll leave you with a question to chew on. The next time you see a company make a big move, launching a new product, moving into a new country, or just changing its prices, ask yourself, what's going on behind the scenes? What unseen forces from that PESTLE framework might be pushing them to make that exact decision? What's happening in the world around them that made them do it?